Mr. Chairman, I got to tell you, there's a lot of panic in Washington, D.C. right now, but I'd argue that your letter that you just sent out telling the Biden administration, Jack Smith, to preserve their documents and all of the DOJ lawyers, that's got to be causing some people to reach for the Xanax bottle. It's got to cause some major salt flow in Washington, D.C. So we have the letter. We'll pop it up on screen. You're making national news with this one. Tell us about it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the tradition, Benny, again, thanks for having us on, but the tradition is Congress gets the report from any special counsel and gets the information from the special counsel. Jack Smith, we think, is in some, that you go back to Nadler when he chaired Judiciary Committee. Bob Mueller issues a report. He comes and testifies. Of course, when we chaired, we had Mr. Durham, Mr. Hur. We currently have David Weiss and Jack Smith, these special counsels. So we want them to preserve the information, particularly Jack Smith, because these prosecutions, as we know, were done solely for politics, solely to go after their political opponent, President Trump. And we want the information. And then I would also add with Jack Smith, there's one of his lawyers, Jay Bratt, who we have real concerns about some things he said to one of the defendant's lawyers, particularly he said, we thought you were interested, the lawyer representing one of the defendants in the case. We thought you were, we didn't know you were a Trump guy. We didn't know that, there's this judge position we know you're interested in, this sort of veiled threat that we want to get to the bottom of that as well. So we want to preserve all information, but this is the normal oversight that the Congress does of special counsels.
What would you, if you were to look for something criminal or something untoward, could you educate us? What would you be looking for? Would you be looking for the Biden White House communicating with this team and pushing the direction of the investigation?
Yeah, and I think we highlight that in the letter where we talk about this same individual we think was meeting with White House officials. Now, I think they may say it was on a different subject, but, we got concerns about that. So, again, that's why we want you to preserve communications, preserve documents, preserve information that were a part of this investigation, and the people involved in this investigation, their communications with, if it was the White House, we'd like to see that. So that's why we've asked for that preservation.
Congressman, you've come on this program for months and years and said that these prosecutions are political. Donald Trump gets elected, now they're all gone. It's like, congratulations on being right.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the good news is the country knew we were right. And this was part of the reason I think President Trump won this, just the greatest political comeback in American history. I mean, wins all 7 swing states, wins 30 states, wins the popular vote, wins the Electoral College in a landslide, did something Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do, for goodness sake. I mean, amazing. But part of it was the country rightly understood that this lawfare, that these political prosecutions were just that, political, not based on fact, not based on the rule of law. And I think that's one of the key reasons why he won in such an overwhelming fashion.
Yeah, well, what would be your advice to Jack Smith and Fani Willis? Are they going to get more subpoenas to come in and testify about what exactly happened behind the scene? Could they be expecting to hear from you? Are you going to need to send this federal marshals to hunt them down like you did Nathan Wade?
Preserve the documents, Mr. Smith. Give us the information that, preserve that information so when the new administration comes in, we can get that information, take a good look at it. And then, with Fani Willis, that case is just falling apart. And they keep moving back. The Alvin Bragg case was ridiculous as well, and they keep moving back the sentencing date. I think it now is slated for the 26th. So we'll see what they decide there in that case also.
Yeah, you can't call him a felon unless the judge actually sentences him. So that's another down bad moment for our friends on the left. They are very down bad right now. Your colleague Matt Gaetz, appointmentship to the Attorney General. Can you game theory that for us? That seems to be arguably the most controversial pick by President Trump. We freaking love it. We've loved Matt Gaetz and his questions on your committees to everyone from FBI Cyber to Merrick Garland. Talk us through. I know that you're very close with Matt. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I mean, one of the most talented individuals that I've seen in my time in Congress at cross-examining a witness, and also we know if Matt is the Attorney General, we won't have a Justice Department that is saying, oh, we should go investigate moms and dads showing up at school board meetings. We won't have a Justice Department where the Richmond Field Office of the FBI puts together a memorandum which says if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're somehow an extremist. And maybe we'll have a Justice Department that can tell us answers to some kind of basic things like who planted the pipe bombs on January 6th, who leaked the Dobbs decision, and here's one, who put cocaine at the White House? Like, why don't we know that? Like, you'd think they could figure some of those things out, and maybe not have a Justice Department that just weeks before an election, the Civil Rights Division sends a letter to Glenn Youngkin, sends a letter to Ohio's Secretary of State saying, oh, you can't take off non-citizens from the voter registration rolls. So that to me is what this is really about. We want people who value freedom and value the rule of law, not politics from our Justice Department. And it's also why I'm so pleased with the RFK nomination. There's a guy who values freedom and free speech in the First Amendment, and Tulsi Gabbard as well.
I think this is why you can just hear the scream. I'm all the way in Florida, but you can hear the screams. And I'm not sure if you're in Ohio or not today. You can just hear it out of Washington, D.C. It's a dull roar, because the transparency is really going to atomize the credibility of these organizations the moment that you find out that there's DNA on the cocaine at the White House, which there is, and you see that they've been covering that up, whether it's a family member or a high-level staffer. Hard to bring cocaine in the White House, Congressman.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, wouldn't advise anyone to ever try. You know, you get hit up by a drug-sniffing dog. When I go into the White House, that's how they treat me. Yep. So don't do that. When you see, if there's evidence that the person with the pipe bomb was a Fed, as the case has been made on this program multiple times, that there's a lot of evidence, very strange circumstances surrounding the pipe bombers. That atomizes the credibility of these agencies, like immediately.
Yeah. And Benny, remember, with the Dobbs leaking that decision, we had the lives of Supreme Court justices put in jeopardy. I mean, what they had to do to protect Justice Kavanaugh and others. I mean, but we don't know. We don't know anything about that. I mean, like, come on. Yet you got time to do the crazy things that they're doing. So that just makes no sense. And this free speech thing, I mean, with RFK Jr., I had a conversation with him a couple months ago when he endorsed President Trump. And it was interesting. Maybe we've talked about this, but it was interesting because I told him, I said, you know, when I invited him in as a witness in front of our committee, the Weaponization of Government Committee, I invited Tulsi Gabbard, and the Democrats went after him. In fact, the Democrats went, think about this. When RFK Jr. comes in and testifies, the Democrats made a motion in the committee hearing to go to executive session to kick everyone out so that no one could hear what RFK Jr. was going to testify to in a hearing on censorship. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So I really appreciate that Tulsi and RFK Jr. have been nominated for the cabinet too, because they understand the First Amendment is critically important for this country to remain the greatest country ever.
There seems to be some reticence or perhaps some cold feet, or maybe Congressman, I'm just like reading into it too much based on the media ecosystem in D.C. But what's your message to Republicans in the Senate about the vote for Gates?
I mean, I have confidence in President Trump. If this is the individual he wants, and we know Mr. Gates and Matt's commitment to protecting liberty, I mean, I think that should be driving the thinking. Same with Tulsi, same with RFK Jr., frankly, same with Pete Hegseth. This is who the American people, with their vote, this overwhelming win for President Trump, I think they said, we want the right attitude in our government. We want people coming in there saying, these agencies are supposed to serve we the people. They're supposed to represent we the taxpayers, and we're sick of the baloney we see from them, the politics and the waste of our money. That's why he's putting in place the people he is. And frankly, that's why you got Mr. Musk and Mr. Ramaswamy who are going to say, like, enough of the ridiculous things that our tax dollars are spent on. Here's the report. Now, Congress, go pass legislation to get rid of some of this stuff. That is exactly the attitude the American people voted for, and the people President Trump is putting up for these key positions have that attitude.
I think people are going to love it. I think the will of the people is at your back, and they're going to want to see these reforms. They're going to want to see reforms like federal voter ID in national elections. They're going to want to not have. There's a county in California that's still counting votes. They're only 30% through counting votes today. It's 11 days from the election. That should be criminal. It shouldn't be allowed. Okay. It seems like also in Bucks County in Pennsylvania, they're trying to really meddle with some things. And
meddle with Dave McCormick's win. And Dave McCormick won that race, and it's like, that's ridiculous.
Pull some shenanigans. That's right. So again, people would love to see our elections cleaned up and reformed from federal level. Is that on the docket for the House?
Yeah, it is. I think we should be. We had the bill, the SAVE Act, that we tried to get on the appropriations bill before the election. The Democrats wouldn't go for it. I think that's Mr. Stile and Mr. Roy, two great members, have worked on that. I think that's the kind of legislation we need to pass that would help us when we're thinking about the election. That you got to be a citizen. You got to demonstrate you're a citizen before you go register to vote. And I think states should be going with what we have in Ohio. You walk in to vote. There's a signature verification. You have to show your ID. And you got 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans at every single polling location. That's how it's supposed to be.
Speaking of Ohio, many people are floating your name for potentially being the next senator from Ohio. Any comment on that?
No, not going to be me. Not going to be me. I like Congressman Kerry, Congressman Davidson, 2 of my colleagues. I think they would be. I think they'd be tremendous. There's other good people being talked about as well, but that's a decision for the governor. Although I think President Trump may have some influence there, and maybe the guy that they're going to be replacing, who's going to be our next vice president, who did an outstanding job as our senator, maybe he may have a little say as well.
That's exactly right. Big positions still yet to be filled. One I know that you'll be watching very closely. Maybe you can fill us in on who's going to be selected. FBI director. This is a monster position that is obviously going to be working. Has been before your committee many times and has been a major problem center when it comes to law enforcement in this country. Your thoughts?
I don't know who it'll be, but I do know I'm confident President Trump will continue with the attitude we talked about, where you're going to put people in these positions who respect the taxpayers. Think about the pre-dawn raids that the FBI has done. People like Mr. Houck, who was simply praying in front of a clinic. His lawyer said if you got questions, he's happy to come in, but no, they got to come into his house. The scene that traumatizes his kids and family. I mean, that kind of stuff is just ridiculous. So we need new leadership at the FBI. I do believe, by and large, the rank and file members are good people. We have 2 former FBI agents who work for the Judiciary Committee. Outstanding guys, great guys, give us amazing insight. They're right out of Central Casting, worked in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, have the Irish and the Italian names and that kind of stuff. They're just great kind of people. I think the rank and file members who work in the FBI are good folks. But I do think the leadership needs to change, and President Trump's committed to doing that.
Excellent. So fight night, championship wrestler. Got anything on UFC or Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson this
well,
evening?
I think Bo Nickal's fighting this weekend. He's three-time national champ, Penn State, and I always like the wrestling guys who are having big fights. So Nickal's the guy we kind of follow. With Paul Tyson, who knows? Jake Paul wrestled I think he wrestled. He's like sort of our oldest boy. Yeah, he's from. I think he's the St. Vincent St. Mary guy from if I remember correctly in the Akron area. I think he wrestled one of the Division II quality programs in our great state. So yeah, him and his they're pretty good back in the Ohio wrestling, which, as you know, is pretty good high school wrestling. So we'll see. But Mike Tyson, man, remember back in his heyday when he would hit someone? Oh my goodness! Like came from the hip, it seemed like. So we'll see who wins that one.
Yeah, we all win because they're all Trump supporters. Bo Nickel is a big-time Trump supporter. He did a video with Trump, right? He did a video supporting Trump. Penn State, Bo Nickel, and Tyson and Paul. They all support Trump. So.
Well, speaking of wrestling, how about when President was at State College, and he calls the wrestling team up on stage, and he's talking about Penn State wrestling's been dominating, and it was so funny because President Trump, how he is. He steps back and goes, "Anyone want to say something?" And of course it was Rutherford, who was like another 3-time national champ. They all kind of look at him, and he steps up and just knocked it out of the park about go vote, make America great again, God bless. I mean, it's a great little remarks he gave. But that is so President Trump. And I told President Trump, I said, if it's close in Pennsylvania, the wrestling community is going to win it for you because there's such a big wrestling state, and all wrestling people, working class people, they're middle-class folks, they're for President Trump. I think it made a difference for McCormick, who, by the way, was a really good high school wrestler and captain of the West Point team. I think it made a difference for him in that close race for Senate.
We posted that. I said, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
This wrestling culture will move votes unlike NFL culture, unlike anything. Like this, I think that was more powerful than going to the Steelers game, to be honest with you, in Pennsylvania.
I think it's true because I campaigned with McCormick. We went to the Lehigh Wrestling Room. We went to Pitt Johnstown Wrestling. We talked to some of the athletes and some of the boosters and all.
Did you throw down? Did you grapple a little bit? You throw down with the boys?
I'm old, Benny.
Show them what's up, Congressman.
I'm smarter than that, man. You're still young enough to go. I'm not.
Got an old man. Got the old man strength. That's right. The young kids don't know.
I'm way past that, but no, I do think there's something there, and in states like Pennsylvania and Iowa, Ohio, where high school wrestling and wrestling's big, I think it can make a difference.
Yeah, and Rocky just endorsed Trump last night, right on stage.
I saw that.
There you go. Yeah. Kamala down bad because she did her last event at the Rocky Steps. So talk about an insult to injury. The last Kamala event was at the Rocky Steps, and here is Sylvester Stallone. Champs know a champ.